Day number 5 of rebuilding the tower room. I have removed the ceiling so far, and it was a dirty job, believe me, it was. And some of you have asked me, what is below that floor on the tower? Well, this is the ground floor. It's the same room, same kind of height, but let me show you the ceiling, which is actually the floor of the tower room. So finally the old structure is now exposed, and here you see the old oak beams going from the left to the right. There are 2 of them, and then there's 2 big huge rafters left and right on both sides, and that is holding actually the old structure from the pier. So these are the mother beams, and they're really thick and in good condition, and you can see that they have cutouts. Now that's where the rafters go in. Now this rafter is missing, that one is still in there, so I will have to get some new rafters to put in. I think they are about 10 by 10, and that should just work fine. Some are still there, but they are bent, so I might have to level them out a bit. And there are beams all around the sides where the walls are, and they are resting on the wall. And some of them are sticking out a bit outside the wall, but I want to make this a bit stronger. Although these beams are anchored in with metal bars into the walls, I'm going to install bigger beams on the side, not this type, that's just an example, and then bolt them down. So it will be a lot stronger, and I'm going to do it all around this structure. We'll also close up the holes here because that's where the birds came in, and I'll show you what the birds did here. And there's some brickwork to be done. See, these bricks are just laying there. So there's a bit of brickwork here and there to be completed. Well, this is actually a nest from ravens. There's a lot of ravens around on the farm, and they get in between the roof and the beams, and that's where they have made their nest for many years. I have piles and piles of bird nests. And all the beams where they join together have marks on them, like 3 and 3. So that's how they were building at the time. It was all matched to each other. And the nails used to keep the beams together were forged by a blacksmith. And these are 3 nails that I found laying in the debris on the attic. And they come in different sizes, a smaller one, a medium size, and a large one. But really the large one is really big. You can see how much the span is. It's about 1 centimeter wide. And look at this head, how they forged the head, the shape of that head. It's amazing. Now this was made by a blacksmith, so I can imagine this took a hell of a job to create all these nails. I should have used the wide angle lens to show you that structure, but hopefully I can show it to you. You might have noticed that I did not remove yet the rafters that were holding the plaster ceiling. And I'm going to keep those in because it makes it a bit safer to walk around. I will first of all replace the old rafters where necessary, and some are missing, as you have seen. This one is still a good one, and I will place those first, so then I can actually place some OSB boards on top of it, so it will make it safer to work. And then I will remove the rafters that were holding the plaster ceiling. And of course I will have to clean up all this debris. And if you wonder how the ceiling will look like at the end, it's going to be something like this. I've done this ceiling a couple of years ago, and it was done exactly the same way. I removed all the plaster, I cleaned up all the beams, and then replaced the floor on top of it, and it turned out to be quite nice. I have 6 bags of 800 kilograms each of debris that came out of the tower. So that's a lot of weight. That's about 4.8 kiloton. So that's got to go in a container soon. But now we're going to work on the enforcement of the structure. To enforce the side beams of the old structure, I'm going to install new beams on the side, and I'm going to bolt them down with these big bolts. So they will go straight through it, and then it will go inside the old beam. Now that way it will secure that old beam even better onto the wall. And I need to cut about 4 of these. So let's do that first of all. And it keeps on raining the whole week. We had rain and rain and rain. It's terrible. So 210 is the first one. So let's cut this guy. I now have all the pieces on the attic, and I'm going to bolt down this new wood onto the old beams. Now the old beams are resting on the wall, and the only purpose they have is to support the outriggers. And these are the old outriggers or the rafters, which I'm going to change with the new ones we just got in oak. But the problem is that this beam is not resting in full on the wall, so I'm going to bolt this extra piece of wood to it so I have a better support surface. Now, but at the end, this beam will have little purpose. I'm going to support all the outriggers with a new cellular concrete wall that I'm going to build inside the room below. So they will be resting on that new wall. But for now, I want to make it stronger, and as well, it gives me a very good basis for the uprights I'm going to place right here, because I'm going to put additional uprights to support the roof right here. So it has a dual purpose. So let's start drilling some holes and bolt it down. And I'm using these PAX bolts. They're quite long, and a wood drill. So let's drill through the hole first, and then we can fit it in. There we go. That's number 1. And that's how we're going to do all of them. Hi folks, and I just got back picking up the new oak beams for the old ceiling. So let me show you what it is. This is French oak. It's been cut about a year ago. They are about 10 by 10 centimeters, and it's a second choice. And the reason for that is that you have knots in it. Here and there you find knots. If it didn't have any knots, then you would use it for furniture, and it's actually quite expensive. But for an old building like this, we want to go for this type of beams. You can see the knots here and some damage there, but that's okay. It doesn't really matter. I'm going to let it dry a little bit, and then we're going to blast it with Garnet 330. This being a natural product, it's going to bend over time a bit, and oak has a tendency to bend, especially if it's not really dried or controlled dried, and this is not controlled dried. And you can actually already see that on this one, that it's kind of slightly curving. If I look at it, it curves around a bit that way. So it's already a little bit like so, but that's okay. That's something you need to consider when I'm going to put it in the ceiling. I'm going to make it as such that the bow or the curve is upwards. So by the weight of the planks that go on top of it, it's going to hold that down a bit, and it's not going to let that deform too much. If I place it the other way around, it's going to sag out, and that's not something you want to have. This is the new oak rafter, and I placed it just on the edge where it should fall into the old mortar beam. Now the depth should be okay, which is 10. It's the same as my beam. However, the width of the cutout is 12, and that's because they used to match the cutouts to the rafters they had at the time. But that's okay. I can always put a piece of wood in between. I will have plenty of oak left over. And by the way, this rafter is longer than it actually should be, because now I'm going to cut it to the right length. That's why I have it aligned up right here. And here I'm going to mark it where I need to cut it. Now here we have 12 deep, and on the other side there was 10, and 12 wide. Again, we'll have to put a spacer underneath or something like that to make it level. But now first of all, now we're going to cut this, and then we're going to cut it to the right distance. Let's try to cut this in place. And maybe we can just do it a bit smart, like so. And cutting these beams is pretty hard work. And you can see this is rock solid oak. All right. Now we have to be a bit careful to put it into place, because these guys are fairly heavy, so I'm going to put it in place first on the other side. You see how that falls in nicely, but here we have the gap, but that's okay. For now at least. And now let's see if we can get the other side in. Now this would be so much more easy if I could work with two. And that was the light that went down. So you can see, hopefully, let me pull up the light so you can actually see what I'm doing. It got caught by the cable, by the way, guys. So see how that fits in nicely. Now, of course, here I don't need to knock it all the way in, because I need to put something underneath. And that's about a centimeter or so. But that beam is going in real nice. And I think I could probably put something in like this. I was already prepared for it, guys, so there we go. That looks good. I'm going to hold the beam into place with metal panels like this, and then we put some screws through it, and that way it will never move. And we do one at the end. One. And that's it. I do the other side equally, and then I continue placing all the other beams. So we have rafter number 1 in place, and now I'm going to continue with the other 13 that I still have to do. I'm not going to film it, guys, because it's always the same principle. These are 2 oak beams that are resting on top of the walls where the roof is sitting on, and this is the corner, and I don't know why they did not connect them. In fact, they overlap a bit in the back, but they're kind of worn, but they're still very solid. So I'm going to install a corner angle right here, so that will keep that certainly together. It probably wasn't necessary, but I like to do the things my way. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye bye.